Schizophrenia, a primer on being special. I know, um, it's a disease, it's a disorder. Schizophrenia it's not an accurate version of reality. It's delusional, it's false beliefs. Um, has nothing to do with the world out there. It's all some screwy components in here. That's what we're told, and it's comfortable to believe that. It's safe. It's safe to believe that if you're someone who's gone over the edge, heard voices, had delusions, been crazy, been locked up, been medicated. It's nice to feel like, hey, I've got control of this. This is never going to happen again. This is a disease. I was really believing in it, but I was wrong for believing in it. A little bit of Stockholm syndrome there may be going on. But I'm going to talk about schizophrenia as being special. So I guess that's my first point of this video. We are special and unique and different. So I think that goes without saying. So I'm gonna try and, I guess, break down some of what makes us special and how that doesn't work in the real world, how there's pitfalls to it. And I'm gonna go from my own experience, and I don't usually hear voices. I usually just have delusional material, delusional content and stuff, and kind of lose touch with the consensus reality. So I'm gonna break down some of what I've kind of found within myself, some answers I found within myself, some insights. Also a psychology student. I have 99 credits towards a Bachelor of Science in Psychology. So, I kind of looked at what I read and what made sense and what I, from my own experience internally, I'd read something and I'd be like, this is not true. This is not what it's like for me when I'm having a delusion. And sometimes I would read something and I would, in a textbook, and yeah, this is exactly what's going on, but it's a little bit different from the inside view. So, let's go with that. My first recommendation, if you watching me or someone with schizophrenia, go ahead and invest yourself in learning a little bit of psychology. Get an intro to psych book off Amazon or from the library or bookstore, used bookstore. Get an intro to psych book and read through it. Don't just read the part about schizophrenia, because schizophrenia isn't isolated into this one mental illness and the rest of society doesn't have any connection to that. I think I'm one of those people who believes that everybody kind of goes either more schizophrenic or less schizophrenic in the world, but everybody's a little bit schizophrenic. Everybody's somewhere on the spectrum. So an example of that I can give, knowing that I'm very delusional and I was in a place where I was kind of edgy, and I was at a drop-in center, and, the way I dress, like, look at me, I'm wearing, a bright yellow dress and a black headband. So this person, said, a chick, maybe in her 30s or something, whatever, and she had said, about a cake that they were cutting. It had been a frozen pie or cake or something, and it was unfrozen, and they were cutting it to have, like, coffee and cake. And she said, wow, this cake's kind of weird. Now, she's not, I don't think, a schizophrenic person, and she didn't take it the way I did. In that situation, I think she was kind of like maybe giving a kind of non sequitur jab at me, kind of a little flirt or something. And that was from her level of being a person who might talk between the lines, but not be a schizophrenic person who's getting messages about ancient prophecies about them from movies that they're watching, like I would be at that time. So I could take it on that level where, yeah, she's communicating with me on my level. So yeah, let's talk about the ancient prophecies about Mo. But that I kind of knew that that wasn't what was going on. She might have been a little bit, talking between the lines and stuff, but not on the same degree that I am. So everybody in society has a little bit more or less of the schizophrenia going on, and I think there's enough concrete data to support that. So if you're reading an intro to psych book, you can look at the schizophrenia section, the mental illness section, the therapies section, but look at the whole book, because the whole book is going to tell you the story about yourself that you can agree with or disagree with, depending on how true the different ideas and concepts ring true for you. So, and going ahead and getting a full-on degree in psychology, or just really studying it is a wonderful thing if you have schizophrenia, to really get an outsider's view of what's going on with you and then compare it to your insider's view. A couple recommendations: Yale University on YouTube gives their whole intro to psych course lectures. I believe so does Stanford University. So, you're not going to go wrong with going to their YouTube sites and watching their whole intro to psych lectures. I think it's like 20 or 13 or something lectures on intro to psych for Yale University. So go ahead, got nothing to lose. So let me get into my little talk here. 6 minutes into this video already. As you notice, I'm wearing some peculiar, yellow and a black headband. So let's talk about top-down versus bottom-up processing. Society tells us, and most people internalize this idea that what you see is what you get, and what you're told to see is what you get. So, why am I wearing yellow and black? Because I like yellow and black. That would be the top-down processing. There would be no inference, no insinuations, nothing going on here, nothing to see. A normal person who doesn't have schizophrenia or doesn't have a great degree of schizophrenia going on with them would not really think much of me wearing yellow and black. I don't know what's going on with my camera. So then again, that would be top-down processing. Just taking it as we're told. There should be nothing going on behind the scenes or anything. Now, the interesting thing about top-down processing is the reverse, bottom-up processing. Now, someone with, maybe they just did some mescaline, or maybe they just did some sort of hallucinatory drug or some marijuana, might look at me and think, wow, yellow and black, what does that make me think of? Or someone with schizophrenia might do the same thing, yellow and black. What's going on here? Why is Mo wearing a yellow dress with a black headband, a black necklace? What's going on? Well, what's going on is I'm a bee. So that's bottom-up processing. When you look at the picture and being schizophrenic, we don't necessarily believe in that story that there's nothing going on. There's something going on behind the scenes in the picture. There's a story going on. So yellow and black, that's a bee. So I know myself, if I was very delusional, I might think hey, this person is, they're trying to warn me of something. I'm going to get stung in some situation. This is a warning to me. And that would start to be a delusion. What situation am I going to get stung in? Who's plotting something behind my back? So that would be the bottom-up processing. Now, there's really nothing wrong with bottom-up processing. It's actually a very, very good thing. We can't just take things as we're told they should be. We've got to look at how they really are. I'm going to illustrate some of these things with tarot cards because they're really good archetypes to illustrate things. So someone who's doing top-down processing would be like the dog on this moon card. They're tamed, they're domesticated, they know what they're told to think, and that's what they think. Now, someone doing bottom-up processing would be looking at the situation from a feral, kind of wild, untamed point of view, and they're going to be looking at things a little bit differently. So this is the moon card. Being schizophrenic, they would have called us in, I guess, Roman times, they would have called us lunatics, because we're connected to the moon, these kind of unseen things, which is my next point I'm going to be going into. But, just for suggestions about coping with schizophrenia, rather than being just the wild wolf or fox, and rather than being just the tame, domesticated dog and saying, well, this is my mental illness, it's a disease, and someday I'll get better, but I'll have to take medication the rest of my life. You want to kind of integrate both sides, and be like the crab going up the middle of the path. You can see that the world isn't as it seems, and you can also see that sometimes the world is very mundane, and it is just as it seems. So you can take the middle path. So middle path is always a recommendation. Where am I going next with this? So, on this idea of having my own point of view, having our own points of view, seeing things in a different way, seeing things in a very personal way, seeing the universe as very populated, having an animistic, childlike point of view of seeing that, there's a spirit living in this bee. It's looking at me funny. It wants to talk to me. Having a song that it means something particular to you, and it's very real. So what I'm saying is, there's an intrapersonal and an interpersonal level that I found really helpful with my own mental illness, with my own schizophrenia. So intrapersonal is everything that's happening in here. Intrapersonal is my dreams, my inner thoughts, my feelings, my emotions, my beliefs, and my perceptions, meditating alone, listening to music alone, listening to music with someone else, and having my own version of the song, that what it means to me, that the other person doesn't share. All these intrapersonal. Intrapersonal is just what's going on in here and here, as opposed to the opposite of interpersonal, where these are shared social experiences. This is a consensus reality. Now, I have experiences where I'm listening to a song and suddenly I kind of get taken away, and it's very meaningful for me. It's touching on a lot of things that only I know about, and it's being very specific. There's some synchronicity, some coincidences that are meaningful going on, and all this stuff it gives me a buzz. It gets me high. It's a spiritual truth. But these are intrapersonal things. These are the Hermit card. This light, this shining bright light that I'm experiencing when I'm having something delusional is not something maybe I can share with anyone else. And if I told someone, oh, this song is crazy, this is about me. When I was a kid, I stepped on a snake and it bit me, and this song's talking about getting bit on the foot, and it has so much to do with me, and it's explaining to me something very, very deep and core to my way of seeing the world, and no one's gonna get it. So, with our intrapersonal things, we want to think that everybody is on our level. Everybody is seeing this world from a bottom-up processing, and we have good hearts. I think that's something we want to share, but there's no communication, there's no connection. People aren't gonna necessarily vibe with you, really get what you're saying, and it's also personal to you, it's significant to you. So the person over here sitting next to you, listening to the song or watching the movie with you, they're not gonna totally experience what's going on in here. So you have this own world. It's a private, lonely world, and if you want to share it, first you have to realize that you don't share it. What your perceptions and stuff, your society that you live in is not the society that everybody else lives in. And when you realize that, then you've got to like, well, how do I break it down? So the next part is to find an outlet, find an expression, find art, find a way of packaging your experience, which, I've done with my music somewhat. Some of my writing, I've written a little here and there, and try and, encapsulate this experience, encapsulate this spiritual truth and this personal something or other, so that another person, you can't give it to them to eat because they can't chew it, they don't have the apparatus or anything. You can give it to them in a capsule. They can swallow the capsule and then unpack what you gave them. So a lot of truth for me is realizing that when I'm having these kind of delusional materials and these songs and experiences and spiritual truths and all this stuff going on in my destiny, and it's so significant, and these coincidences are piling up, and it's very meaningful, and this isn't just a coincidence, this is a synchronicity. Not really anyone's gonna understand that. And people will understand it on some level, but the takeaway is you're not going to be able to communicate your own schizophrenic experience of any of these coincidences. You can't communicate that core on a direct basis. And it's not to say that you're going to be isolated and lonely in your schizophrenia forever. You can package that. You can package that and give it to someone, and they can unpack it, and they'll be like, oh, this was interesting. This was like, this touched a chord in me. I don't know how this got into me. It touched a chord in me, and now I resonate. I understand where Mo's coming from, because, this kind of explained it without explaining it. So it's kind of hard to break down and make that intrapersonal experience interpersonal, where someone else is sharing it, but it can be done, and you don't have to be lonely, and you also don't have to think that everybody is having this intrapersonal experience with you, because most of them are probably only having 25% of what you're experiencing, or 10% of what you're experiencing. So that's a realization, not a bad realization, not like waking up the morning after not knowing what happened, but it's a realization that, not everybody can vibe with me. This video is kind of getting long, so let me just try and break down a couple more things. For me, with my schizophrenia, I've kind of noticed there's an occultation. To talk about occultation, I've got some props. So maybe society can see the world with a box on, going back into maybe some top-down processing. This is what we're allowed to see. So looking at this world, being someone who's doing more bottom-up processing, society is seeing the world like this, and the world it's mostly ocean, and there's one continent in the world. Alright, for someone with schizophrenia, when they don't have these projections of society of what is allowed to be in the framework and what's not allowed to be in the framework, we're going to look at the world kind of pulled back, and we're seeing so much more. But the thing is, there's kind of maybe a shame or a guilt that we see this and other people don't. So we've kind of got occulted. In other words, that it's blocked out, it's hidden, it's shadowed, it's occult, it's hidden. So our experience of the world, we're seeing all this whole world with no boundaries, no framework, just as is, as it appears from like an alien's point of view. If they just came to Earth and they'd be like, wow, this society is really weird. And we're living in a world where most other people are seeing varying degrees of a box that they're seeing the world in, a frame. So, this being occulted, some of our things, some of our delusional material is going to come up from being blocked out, being hidden. So, when I was a child, I thought I was a witch. And my parental figure, God bless him, but he didn't know any better, and he told me that was bad. So now that witch is hidden. Being a witch is bad, it's not real, and even if it was, it would be evil because Jesus is the answer. So what is that witch pop-up doing? This witch is occulted. She is blocked. And this could be anything. This could be love. When I was 12, I really loved this girl, but my parents told me that, I'm not allowed to feel that way, so that's occulted. My heart it's blocked out. It's in the shadow. It's an eclipse. So things being eclipsed, in darkness, weird things grow with twisted roots and funky branches. So, this is like what's growing in darkness. It's wild, it's untamed, and it's not healthy, it's not happy. What's being blocked out it's in this shadow, it's occulted, and it's cut off from you. And usually when something is cut off from you, it's going to pop up in a different way, and not necessarily a positive way. So this is going to mean that, hey, I'm having delusions where people are doing witchcraft against me, or I'm having delusions where so-and-so is in love with me and sending me coded love letters when they're really not. And it's just such a heartbreaking kind of thing because, these aren't bad parts of ourselves. These are just parts of ourselves that have been blocked out. So another suggestion is to look to your childhood and kind of piece together where you were told something was bad or didn't exist, or where you were told this part of you wasn't real or wasn't okay, and figure out how something that might have gotten blocked might be popping up over here like a little devil, or even like a little angel, and popping up in a different way, and really trying to trace back what's popping up now as opposed to what you were told, or what was told wasn't real or factual. Oh my gosh, this video is getting long. Okay, so another thing I want to talk about is magic itself, witchcraft magic. And I think that is something probably that's true for a lot of us people with schizophrenia and our own specialness going on. We may have some magical thinking. The problem with that is, again, it's occulted. We're being told it's not real, but we know it's real. So what I found with my solution for that is that in this day and age, unlike maybe, 1950, we can actually, being schizophrenic, study magic and the occult. We can study witchcraft, and really find some sane or not special in our way people looking at magical thinking, and really kind of compare and contrast how that magical thinking may or may not be true, and how we can have magical thinking better. Some of us may have Christian upbringing or anything else that makes us shy away from studying witchcraft, studying magic, and oh no, we don't want to do that. But if you're schizophrenic and you're having a bunch of delusional material about magic popping up, why not look at a serious tradition that's been around for a while, and how they might, in a witchcraft tradition or any other kind of tradition, how they might actually incorporate that in a way that is not crazy, is not occulted, is not something that is hidden so much that it can't even be deciphered. To actually put it on the table, like, hey, let's talk about this. All right, this is up for discussion. What is magic? Does it work? Doesn't it work? What are the practices? Do I, salute to the sun every evening? And there's plenty of channels on YouTube for studying that. So, about, that would be kind of like dis-occultation, to take these delusional materials like magical thinking and say, hey, in this day and age, I don't have to hide this. I can actually be a magical practitioner. I mean, maybe you don't want to tell your psychiatrist, but you can tell the person at the grocery store probably that you study witchcraft. It's not against the law. So another kind of suggestion is to look at our magical, spiritual, metaphysical kind of thinking. This is the star card of the tarot. And balance. So the star card is very good, I think, for showing, okay, this is the real world of society and consensus reality, what everybody agrees is real. And I can certainly nourish that. I can put my effort and energies into the real world. Or this would actually be the spiritual world. So I can stand on the water. I'm not going to walk out on the water because I'm probably going to sink. I'm probably going to end up in a mental institution. That's not where I want to be. But I can have one foot standing on the water. I can certainly pour energy into all these magical, metaphysical, esoteric kind of things, realizing that they're esoteric and they're a special truth only for me that other people aren't going to necessarily understand. But I can also water, hey, these are my relationships, this is my job, my family life, my social life, all my tasks that I have to do in the day. Those little streams, just as much water can go out and nourish our quote-unquote real-world lives. And maybe one stream goes back because you have relationships that are spiritual or something, so it's nourishing your spiritual world as well. I think this is a very good archetype to meditate on for dealing with some schizophrenic issues, or really anything that has to do with balance between the irrational and the rational world. And as far as dis-occultation goes, I think it's better to change that word irrational to the word transrational. Some things are irrational, some things don't make sense no matter how you cut it. But sometimes we function on intuition, so our intuition might be right. I had family court cases going on, and I decided to push the issue and go to trial. I could have lost time with my kids. I could have lost custody of my daughter, and my lawyer is telling me, don't go to trial. Just make a deal and settle for a little bit of time with your kids. And at that crossroads, I had this intuition. I knew I was doing, different magical and prayers and stuff, and I knew in my gut and in my heart, I knew that it was going to go my way. But there was no real world kind of rational way to believe that. So my lawyer told me, well, you're irrational. That's just more of a strike against you for not getting custody of your kids. And I wasn't irrational, I was transrational. I understood some kind of a higher or different reality that it was going to go my way. And I knew that in my gut. I knew that for a fact. It wasn't a hunch. It was a hunch that, I would butter my bread with. This was a hunch that I knew. So it wasn't irrational. It wasn't irrational like I was rebelling against the world. It was transrational. I had a secret. I knew something, perceived something that other people didn't know. So, let me try and speed this up a little bit. Let's talk about, I'm gonna end this soon. Maybe I'll put another video out because it's a half-hour video and I'm just going on and on. So, but let's just talk about something else that might be occulted. something else that might be blocked out is the sense of personal destiny. A lot of our delusional material might be about, hey, I'm going to be a rock star, or I'm going to save the world, or I'm going to do something great. And we're occulted in that because we're told that we have to be these little people, we have to be normal people, get a, maybe get a part-time job, settle for what we can do because, we have this mental illness going on. And even if we didn't have mental illness, we would have to get a full-time job and just settle for what we got. And I want to just bring the idea out that maybe it's okay to have a great destiny. Maybe it's okay to have what Aleister Crowley said was a true will. And if you know something is your true will, it's your destiny, this is what you're meant to do, and someone is trying to occult that, they're trying to block that out, like, no, there's nothing to see there, you just, have to fall in line. But maybe you don't have to internalize that. Maybe you can say, you know what, these fibers in my being tell me that I'm meant to do this, and I'm gonna succeed at this. We have missions in life. I believe everybody has a mission or different missions in life, and they may fail them, or they may complete them, or they may complete their missions with flying colors. But it's okay to believe you have a mission, or maybe different missions in life. Again, the star card, the balance, if these are your missions in life, then, you've also got to balance with, can I pay my bills? Do I have food and stuff to eat? But yeah, if you know that you have a destiny that you have to fulfill, it's not an egotistic thing. Is a tiger egotistic for thinking that it's gonna go hunt some gazelles and be the most fierce animal in the plains? I mean, if that's what you are, then go for it, and don't be occulted thinking that you're having a great destiny makes you egotistical, because it only makes you egotistical if you think that, that's an ego-driven kind of thing. If you understand that you're part of the universe and you have a job to do, then go ahead and do it. Do it with some detachment and do it with some passion. So I've actually got a lot more written down that I didn't get into, but this is like a half-hour video, so I'm going to dismiss you all. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe if you like my stuff and you think I'm a fancy, great person. Thank you. Bye.